Hello everyone and welcome to the making of the spice jar holder on Project Wood. This is an exclusive video in 2020 for Patreon and eBay kit buyers. If Patreon members want to buy the kit on eBay, we'll deduct the $8 fee from postage. Otherwise, the link is in the Patreon description for all the wood that you need. So we're starting off here by drilling with what looks like a damaged drill bit. I didn't notice that. 6mm dowel holes. These are for the dowel rails going across the back and the two dowel rails on the top. So we drill in halfway from one side, flip it over and follow the pilot hole to drill in from the other side. This gives a nice clean finish on both sides, of course. So we just check the fit there, make sure that they're okay. You want to have a nice fit but enough room for some glue as well. So we're going to look at the most difficult probably part of the processing, the removal of the mortises for the shelves. So we are kind of sneaking ahead here by drilling some holes, and this will remove most of the material and we'll just clean up the edges with a chisel. You can just take the mortise clean out with a chisel as in previous Project Wood videos. So here I'm using the 6mm, but you can use a larger drill bit as I will do on the top mortise in a moment. So just drilling some pilot holes here for a larger drill bit to remove most of the mortise material. While removing mortises with a chisel is rewarding enough, nothing beats doing it with a mortise machine if you happen to have one. So just removing a larger amount of material this time. I'm not too worried about the edges of the mortise here because we have scribed in the marking out video the edges of the mortise, and any tearing by the drill bit will be cut off at the scribe line, so we'll still have that nice crisp sharp edge to the mortise. Our dog here always gets excited by the high pitched noise of the drill. So we'll take a 25mm and 18mm chisel and remove the rest of the mortises. It's always safer to have your chisels really sharp. I will admit they're not perfectly sharp on this occasion. And you can tell it's a lot harder to remove the material, especially with a material like pine, which is soft. It tends to get clogged up on the end of the chisel. So the goal here is to chisel down halfway from one side and halfway from the other side, giving us a nice clean finish on both sides. And if you want to get a lot more bang for your buck from the chisel and the mallet, make sure you're chiseling over the leg of your table. You get a lot more energy back into the blows of the mallet. Again, here you can see me resting the chisel on the back of my hand, or you can rest it on the back of a ruler or something like that across the wood. You don't want to lean the chisel onto the edge of the mortise. You'll actually squeeze the timber and it looks quite poor in the end product. So as I said, Patreon and eBay kit buyers will have this video exclusive to them for 2021, and 2022 then we'll put it on release to the general public. Hopefully by then all of you will have a go at making some of our projects. And going forward, that's the way we intend to do it, to have our Patreon and kit buyers looked after first. There will be some additional benefits for Patreon members on different levels. We'll be doing some shows on specialist techniques like wood turning, carving, marquetry, pyrography, and visiting some master craftspeople involved in all these areas. And we'll make those shows available for free to Patreon and Patreon members only. And again, we'll release those out every year then to the general public. I'm using a laminate pitch pine here, close to red deal, which is fine for small projects, cheap projects, practice projects. If you're making this for your home for long-term use, it's a good idea to practice first of all in pine, then go and try out some hardwoods like maple, cherry and walnut, or mix them up. So we use a little bit of vertical paring here just to clean off the edges. Always keep your desktop as clear as possible as well. You don't want the timber rocking while you're chiseling. We use an 18mm here to just level off the ends of the trench. The sides of the trench are easy to remove. You're firing along the grain. And you want to repeat that then for all 4 tenons. So next up we want to saw off our waste on the end. 2 saw cuts, a vertical one into the end grain, and then a cross cut saw with a tenon saw on the bench hook. This will leave us with our little tenon for attaching to the base. So removing the splay or chamfer here on the top corner. Tenon saws are not particularly happy when you're sawing down the long grain. This can feel a little bit funny on the saw. Feel like you're getting nowhere. Might be an idea to clamp that down as well to help in the process. So a small amount of material here to remove on the top tenon. So there's a small amount of material here to saw off for the spice jar holders. We match the length of this holder to the width of our shelf in the marking out video. If you're making a shorter version of it, you'll have to adjust that to suit. Now, a very interesting technique coming up here. We've got some angles at 45 degrees to saw. Most people would put the wood in straight into the vise and tilt the saw 45 degrees, which is never a good idea. We always want to keep our tenon saw facing vertical. So we line up the lines we want to cut with our tri-square, close one eye to eliminate any parallax error. And then you only have to saw vertically straight down. So you just have to worry about keeping the saw vertical, which is easy, and it will follow down along the lines we prescribed, and you get a wonderfully straight and accurate cut. So we'll repeat that for all 5 little jar holders. Then get a 12mm chisel just to remove the waste material. And again, a little bit of vertical paring just to clean that off. Try and get this as clean as you can with the chisel at this stage, because sanding the particular shape is not going to be easy. It'll end up getting rounded off. So I'll just loosen it up first of all. Some of them will just pop out very easy. That's no problem. If you have scribed all the lines, there'll be no breakout into the good wood there. A little bit of vertical paring then just to clean off. Just repeat then for the other 3. So one of the easier parts then is the base. Now the base looks very wide, but I had a spice rack made before with quite narrow feet, and it slid around the countertop for fun and toppled over very easy. So we've gone for maximum dimensions without it looking ridiculous on this occasion. It's 100mm wide. Just taking off a little chamfer there for aesthetic reasons, and removing the housing here for the tenon on the side to fit in. 2 vertical cuts and chisel out the rest of the waste. So we'll just pop out the waste here with a chisel. So we saw this method before in other videos where we tap down the chisel 2 or 3 mil into the edge just to remove the outer layers. Gives us a lovely crisp edge on the shoulder of the joint. You repeat that process for the right hand foot piece. And we'll also mark a position for a screw to make sure we have a stable base into the side. That can be done now or later on. Now, nice simple pieces to make are the 2 shelves. Simple little tenon on each end. The bottom shelf will have the piece of wood with the 5 spice jar holder pieces removed attached to the front of it. So that's what we're doing here, is just drilling the pilot holes to screw that on. Again, any of the markings here, you can just go back to the marking out video, check out where they came from. We're using the full length of the tenon saw here to make best advantage of the teeth all the way along the cutting edge. So just marking out here position for pilot hole for a screw to attach the base to the sides. This could be done earlier in the marking out process also. So just drill a pilot bit. We've got the 2 pieces lined up, so we only have to drill down through one to mark the other. And then just drill that all the way through as well. So time to test fit a few pieces. Generally, in the type of projects we do on Project Wood, we dry fit everything, check that everything is fitted up, sand them up. Only then will we glue them. As with most screws, we screw out and screw in twice to get the best capture. Again, if your joints are too tight, you might have a little bit of fettling to do, a little bit of chiseling off the edges just to get them to go together by hand. Your joints must always go together pretty easy by hand, no forcing it. When you put the glue on, that will hold joints together strongly and the wood will actually swell up even a little bit. So we attach the spice jar restrainer onto the lower slanted shelf. Later on, there will be a little bead of glue put along here as well. So now it's just a matter of test fitting everything. Because I've marked everything out with a pen so that people can see it a bit easier in the marking out videos, I tend to get slightly looser joints than would normally be the case. So make sure you're using a 2H pencil nice and sharp. Stick to those lines when you're chiseling and sawing, and you should actually have good tight joints. All joints should have a little bit of filing or chiseling or just fettling just to get them to fit in nicely, just like that one there. So going together now quite nicely. So everything fits together except the right hand side. As I tried to assemble this here, I noticed that the tenon in the top shelf was a little bit tight. Now, it could have been banged all the way home with a mallet, but you run the risk of splitting the side open. So we just remove it, take our time, get a chisel and fettle away a little bit of material to take the strain off. Just mark it there by pushing down. And we'll get an 18mm chisel just to fettle the edge a little bit. We're only talking about 0.5 millimeter of material here, very small. But it makes all the difference when you're trying to put the project together very easy. So that's pretty much everything. Next up would be to sand all those pieces individually, being careful not to over sand the tenons that are going into the joints. Put it all back together with glue in the joints. If it's tight and square, you may not have to clamp it up. If you have to clamp it up for 24 hours, that's fine. It will be then ready for final sanding and varnishing. If you check out all the videos in the playlists on the YouTube channel, you'll find a video on sanding wood properly. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Thank be delighted if you'd share the channel, hit the like button and hit the bell notification button for future videos. To Patreon members, I hope you've enjoyed that, and to the kit buyers as well. If you have any questions, just put them into the comments on YouTube or on Patreon and I'll get back to you. Thank you for watching another project on Project Wood.